Hi everybody, it's Woody here from Dive Talk Academy. We are so excited because this is going to be one of the first videos you're going to see in what we're building, which is an eventual full open water class. But today I really wanted to focus on one thing. I've really grown to love a long hose configuration in recreational, single, back mount take, recreational BC configuration. I'm going to walk you through the setup, why I've learned to love it, and why I dive this way now in really any configuration that I'm diving in, whether it's side mount or single tank back mount, using a tech BC or a recreational BC. This is my go-to method now, and I can't wait to show you all the details and the why behind it. Now, I always say this doesn't mean you have to dive this way or that I'm saying this is the only right way, but I've just grown to love it, and I hope you'll see some of the benefits of it. I think it makes for a more streamlined configuration, actually a safer configuration, and I hope you feel the same. So we're going to walk through the gear, how I set it up, talk about the benefits, talk about the steps to deploy your primary long hose in case of an emergency, and lots of other stuff as well. Enjoy the video. Now, as I talk about the basics of the long hose recreational single tank configuration, I have to give credit where credit is due. I actually saw a video. It's by Greg from Ocean Quest Dive Center. Greg, shout out to you, because many of the things that I'm going to talk about in the video, you talked about in your video. So I hope I'm just bringing more exposure to the long hose configuration, but credit is where credit is due, and you'll see that a lot of the points that I have mentioned here are frankly because of you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Okay, everybody, so let's talk about the basic gear first. I'm just going to point out the long hose configuration itself. Let me turn the camera around, and here we go. What do I have here? I have some bungee. We're going to talk about why I have this bungee in a second. I have a necklace for my backup regulator that I don't use anymore. I use a bungee and a zip tie. We're going to get into that in a second. Here is my Deep 6 first stage. It is a yoke configuration. I use a shearwater computer, so I have a shearwater transmitter. Over here, in my particular case, I have it set up for a dry suit, and so I have a couple hoses. I have a dry suit hose, and I have a hose for my low pressure inflator connection on my BC. So we'll talk about those in a second. I use rubber hoses for my regulators. This is my 22-inch long hose for my secondary backup regulator. This is the one I'm going to be wearing as a necklace around my neck. This is the one that I would put in my mouth after deploying a primary that is on a 7-foot long hose. Long hose. 7 feet, plenty of room for the diver I'm donating to. My second stages, both are Deep 6. You know I love Deep 6 regulators. Both of them are Deep 6. Both of them are just as good as one as good as the other. I believe in that, by the way. I believe in having great regulators for your primary and for your backup. And of course, I already said this is a deep 6 first stage as well. Over here, I have some other things. I have a canister. I use Orca Torch lights. So I have a canister light. Perhaps you use that on a Goodman handle like I do. And it has a battery, big battery, which is going to come in handy for the long hose configuration. Or maybe you wear a wrist mount light. I happen to like this one because it can go wide beam or narrow beam, great for video. I have my standard setup because when I'm diving in the ocean, I, of course, will always carry an SMB and a reel. So I have that, and I'm going to set all of it up on my Recreational BC. This I happen to love right now using the Scuba Pro Hydro BC. I'm going to set this entire configuration up on that. I'm going to set it up on a basic single mount yoke configuration. Thank you, Diver Supply of Marietta, for letting me borrow this tank. And I'm going to walk you through the process of setting up the gear first. And then we're going to talk about wearing it and then deploying it. So excited. One of the first parts of Dive Talk Academy. Gear setup, and in this case, I love it with a long hose configuration. Here we go. Okay, so let's check the tank. For tanks, this is an 80 cubic foot aluminum tank. We want to see what's known as a hydro date. So this is good through 2028. Those have to be done every 5 years. We also have to make sure that the tank has a valid visual inspection sticker. You can see the word visual inspection right there. This one is good through. This one was basically done in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to check is the tank. In this case, I am using an 80 cubic foot aluminum tank. Two important dates on there, two important inspections. One is a hydro inspection. Done every 5 years. We talked about that in a different section of the class, but you're looking for a date. When is it good through? In this case, it's good through 2028, July of 2028. Second is the visual inspection. That has to be done every year, and there'll be a sticker on it. In this case, it was done on January of 2025. So this visual inspection is good through January of 2026. So those two inspections are good. Next thing I check on the tank is the O-ring. Can you see it in there? I'm looking for nicks, cracks, things of that nature. I'm looking at it to make sure it's actually there. And this one looks perfect. This is a yoke setup. Now, before I move on and actually set up my gear, I need to set something up on the secondary or the backup regulator. And what I need to set up is a necklace. So here is a necklace that you can buy, and you notice that it's just some bungee, and it has a loop, and it has a place for the mouthpiece to go in. But let me show you why I prefer a do-it-yourself necklace setup, which we're going to set up in a second. But first, let me give you the why behind why I really don't love these. So this is my backup regulator that I'm going to wear on a necklace. So if it's one that you basically buy, you can see that it has a place for the mouthpiece. And then in this particular one, there are lots of different kinds, but this particular one, it seems pretty good, right? Because you can tighten it up by just pulling to secure the mouthpiece. And you can see it's holding it. The problem I have found in diving with this is, first of all, when I'm on the boat, a lot of times when I put this on, I put it on and I find that I have to stretch it, and right away it falls out, just like it did there. So now I've got a necklace on, and I got to take this and put it back in while I'm sitting on the boat in an awkward position, and I have to try to get this mouthpiece back on this necklace, like so, and then pull it tight so it doesn't slip out. If it looks like I'm kind of struggling with this, it's because I am, and I don't like it. It's so easy to fall out of the necklace. Look at that. It just fell out again. I see it happen all the time on these pre-made necklaces. Some of them are rubber with a hole. So, do-it-yourself necklace. Let's see how this goes and why it's so much better, in my opinion. Okay, so let's make a do-it-yourself necklace, and let's see why I like it so much better. So, honestly, the length of this one is fine. I don't want the regulator hanging, the secondary, the backup regulator hanging way down. I want it pretty close to my mouth in case I have to use it. This one's about a good length, but how long is this length? Well, what I do is I just take some paracord, some bungee. I'm just gonna put it up against this one that I bought. But you won't have to do this because I'm gonna give you the length. Again, this is what works for me, this length. So it may not be great for you. So you wanna measure for yourself what feels comfortable, but it's very easy to do. I'm just making a circle around the existing one that I bought. Okay, so I'm going to put my fingers about right here. So the length of this bungee to be similar to the length of that necklace that I bought is going to be cut about right there. I'm going to give a little bit more for some knots that I'm going to make. I don't know, a couple of inches more. So I'm going to cut this right at this spot. Okay, I cut it right at this spot, and for your purposes, this is turning out to be what length? It looks like it's about 31 inches. 31 inches. Okay, step number 2. Burn the end of it and tie a knot, a basic simple knot. You burn it, like that. This one was really, you can see why you need to burn it. It just starts to fray really easily. Okay, and you don't need a very fancy knot. I mean, look at the one that I bought. It's just got one knot right near the very end. Just a basic loop. Couldn't be any easier. Gus and I like to call this knot the knot. I'm just pushing it down as close as I can to the end, and then I'm going to kind of tighten it down, so you'll see what I mean in a second. Grab this end, it's still a little hot because I just burned it, and it will have this knot pretty tight right near the end. You can slide it down a little bit more. I need this slid down. I want it right near the end, so I'm just loosening it to make this as close to the end as possible. And I'd say that looks pretty darn good, pretty good spot. Tighten it up, pull it, make it tight, and really pulling the knot down towards the end. That's pretty good. That's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. Okay, I got a knot at this end. I got a knot at this end. Now it's time to make this baby into a necklace with my regulator. It ain't gonna come off. It's awesome. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get a different zip tie than the zip tie that is holding your mouthpiece on. Now this one, you can see the little bulge is on my left side, so I'm going to want this bulge to be on the right side. You don't want to put your mouth on it and have this bulge touch your lip. Terrible feeling. So make sure it's not like up here. It's way down like on the side where when you put your mouth on it, your lip is not going to hit this thing. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to simply put this zip tie on like so. Go backwards. I don't cut out these little things where if I mess up or something of that nature, I do a retake. Why? Because I like you to see the reality of doing these things. Okay, pretty good. I'm just putting it right over, and I'm going to have this one probably back here where this is over here on this right side. It's not going to affect my mouth, but before I tighten it all the way down, it's time to put my necklace in. So I'm just sliding it in. Here's one end of it. Here's the other end of it. I made it a little tight for this demo, but that's okay. I should still be able to get this one in. I made the zip tie probably a little tighter than I should have at this point. Okay, so look. It's starting to look like a necklace, right? You can imagine this is going to go around my neck. Now I'm going to tighten this down. And you can really tighten it down. I'm just looking at the placement of where I put this piece here because I don't want it hitting my mouth. You could even check it. Yeah, that's in a good place. Not going to bother me at all. Now I'm really tightening it down a lot. A lot. Okay, that zip tie is really, really tight. Look how cool this is. Look what happens with these bungees. They slide very easily. And look at this. You can pull one up and pull one up. So it's adjusting the size of my necklace. Want to make it looser? Pull it down. Pull it down. How awesome is that? This is not coming off. No way, no how. And now putting on my necklace. Turn this up a little. I'm on the boat, and you want to put this on first before you put your long hose around your neck, because you don't want your long hose underneath this or it would be trapped. So you're on the boat, you put your backup regulator around your head, like so. No matter what, it is not, forgot I have a hat on. Maybe expose my bald head, it'd be way easier. Look at this. No way that's falling off, right? Sitting right here, no problem. Maybe I want it a little bit tighter. And look at the other benefit. I love this, absolutely love this. Again, Greg is the one that deserves credit for telling me this, from Ocean Quest Dive Center. This is what I love. You never know when you could maybe be narked a little bit, or you feel dizzy, or God forbid you ever passed out underwater, where you would really want to make sure this thing stays in your mouth. So, put it in like so. Going anywhere. No problem. You could tighten it up like that. Or you could wear it a little looser. No problem with that either. One of the other things I did is, you can see I pushed these off to the side so they're down out of the way. So that way when you put it on, it's not interfering with the mouthpiece. Now when you pull them to get tighter, no problem, it may slide up, but at that point you already have that in your mouth. So just put it in the position you like. Again, the length really depends on your head size, and this baby is so secure. I'm now going to cut the zip tie off because I've got it plenty tight, and that's it. I have an awesome necklace that is not going anywhere. I love this idea. It's so awesome. Time to put my Scuba Pro Hydros on my BC. Okay, very easy to do. I'm going to get all the air out of it. So, pretty simple. I'm going to take my top part, just wrap it around, let it hang. Okay, and I like it to be, well, I'll show you in a second. And then with the Hydros, it has such a great clasp. It's already adjusted to be perfectly in the right tight spot. It has a Velcro strap where you can Velcro back this part here so it's not all over the place. And I'm just going to clip it on, and I set this to where my BC is hanging in a perfect spot. I want it perfectly even. You want the air portion to be facing you, so you can see no air is coming out there, right? This is the direction you put the BC on. The air should be blowing into my hair. Then you know your BC is in the right spot. Okay, so it's just set to hang where the top of the BC comes to about right where the top of the air meets. And you can see inside of it, it is right where the back plate of the BC is, about right where the crest of the tank starts. That just works out perfect for me. Looks all lined up, nice and even. Lock it down, pretty simple. And then what I do is I lift it up. You can see this BC has a handle. Just lift it up. Not going anywhere. That looks pretty darn good and secure. Easy access to my trim weight pockets. I have one here. I have one here. So if I wanted to put some weight back here, I like to put my weight all around me. A couple in the trim pockets, and then of course I have my ditchable weight pockets on the bottom. And we'll do that in a few minutes. Next step is to put the regulator on the tank. Now your regulators, I'm going to face in this direction, your regulators should be on your right side typically for most people, and your hoses, again I have a dry suit hose and a low pressure inflator hose, I have both, would be on your left side. And if you were diving in a wetsuit, then you would only need a low pressure inflator hose. You don't need the dry suit hose as well. Pretty straightforward. And my transmitter is going to be pointing. You can either, in this case, it's got enough ports where it's not sticking way out, so that's a good place for it. And it's pretty simple. Unscrew the dust cap. This helps protect the first stage from getting water. This section here, you don't want to get that, you don't want to leave that exposed. And then you just put it right over the O-ring and tighten it, but not to the point where you're tightening it so tight that you're like cramping it as hard as you can. I'm finger tight, where I could turn it and take it off with my fingers or tighten it with my fingers that way, because when I turn the air on, the seal itself is going to tighten it much more. Now you can see I have my backup regulator right here and my long hose regulator all on my right side, not tangled. And I have a bolt snap on it. Very important for a couple reasons, but one reason is when you're on the boat, just clip it off before you get in your gear. Makes for a nice storage place. But how about another use? Let's say that you ran out of air. You don't want this dangling way out nowhere, even though it's around your neck, right? If you ran out of air, you'd probably take this off, clip it off, so the regulator is safe, tucked into your BC, and we're going to talk about what to do with all this excess hose in a second. But basically my gear is ready to turn on and test before I put it on, which then I will do more tests. Time to turn the air on and check everything. So, to turn the air on, tank valve, twist it towards me, turn it on slowly, and you listen. I don't hear any leaks. That's the first check I do. It's really, really good. No problems there. Now, regulators, because of the diaphragm, really need to be tested underwater. So you want to put your face in the water when you first get in and breathe from both regulators. You can do it now as well, and you may want to do it 3 times. Purge it a little. That purge button works. This purge button works. Just a little bit. But you really want to do it underwater to make sure that the diaphragm is seated properly, so that when you breathe, you're actually breathing air and you're not breathing water. Low pressure inflator hose, I should have already connected it before the air is on, but good exercise to show you you can do it even when your air is on. You pull back this little knob, pull it back, push it in, lock it in. I pull it a little, you can see it's solid, not coming out. And I like to streamline it. And this one has, excuse me, I'm gonna show you, I don't edit for errors. This has a little loop to thread it through. We want everything streamlined because one of the big advantages of diving the long hose you're gonna see is that none of your gear is sticking out. This has another little place right here to lock in the hose. And look how the hose is it's not too long. It's just the right length. And I'm going to test my low pressure inflator hose. Inflate. And I'm going to inflate it all the way until I hear that sound. That is the purge valve. It means it won't let your BC blow up. This has what we call 2 dump valves. Oh, by the way, this is the hose for my dry suit. I'm not setting it up for a dry suit right now, so I don't want this hose dangling all over the place, that's for sure. And in the Scuba Pro BC, again, I'm all about streamlining. It's no big deal for this quick demo, but it has like a little place I can tuck this hose down because, again, I wouldn't even have this hose on this BC if it were not being used. I would not keep an extra hose. But I would, for now, just tucking it in to get it out of the way for this demo. So I fill it up. I can dump air in 3 ways. The low pressure inflator hose has a button to push to let air out. All the air is coming out. And by the way, that is another way to inflate this BCU. Push this button, blow air in, because if something happened where the low pressure inflator hose wasn't working, you can push and orally inflate. Push and blow in. Let go between breaths. In my case, it takes about 2.5 breaths and it's very full. You can dump, somebody could come and dump mine from behind on the Scuba Pro by hitting a button right here. There's a button. If they saw me running away, they could push that button and it would dump. A very nice feature if you have a runaway diver. So that's kind of cool. You can also typically pull low pressure inflator hoses to dump air. So I'm pulling it and you can hear it triggers the dump valve. Pull it, triggers the dump valve. So you can tell manufacturers really want to make sure you can dump air. Another one is the dump valve on the right side. You see it here? Pull it. Boom. Released air. Finally, hopefully you're diving in the horizontal dive position. You're going to hear us talk a lot about. And if you are, you will notice that on this one I'm going to take the camera here and I'm going to have to show you. See if I can get a better view for you. There it is. Okay, so it's connected to this dump valve right here. Pull, and that releases air there as well. So you have this dump valve right here. Another one. Push down. You can pull this. That'll dump air. And of course you have the one dump valve here over your right shoulder, where I pulled this, and that dumps air. Lots of ways to get rid of air. Now we need to check how much air do we have in the tank. Well, you know I have a wireless transmitter on mine. I happen to love Shearwater computers. That's the this is the turn, and look right there. This is a 1,572 PSI in this tank. We would not start a dive with a tank that is half full. Usually, you want to see right around 3,000 PSI. So, wouldn't use this tank to start the dive. Hey everybody, so it's time to get in the gear. There it is behind me. Normally that would be, if you're on a boat, for example, that would be sitting in a tank holder, and you're sitting down, and you simply put your arms in, and I like to make sure the shoulder straps are loose. We haven't talked about the various ways to loosen the shoulder straps, tighten the shoulder straps, break the shoulder straps away, but we will be talking about that. But you want them in the loose position. And I'm simply getting in while I'm sitting here on the boat, like so. It's just 2 shoulder straps. 1, 2. Put it around your shoulders. Okay, and the next part is there's a waist strap. This particular waist strap just clips in very nicely, like so. Boom. I pull this to tighten it. This one has an upper strap. Notice my BC already has a whistle. Important emergency device already on it. I'm going to tighten my chest strap. And now I'm in the BC, and I'm going to put on my various regulators. So I told you the first one you want to put on is your alternate regulator. 22-inch hose, so it's sitting right where I want it. Put this on, thanks to my do-it-yourself bungee. This thing is going nowhere, and it's just going to sit just like that. Now I have my long hose, whole bunch of hose here. Okay, so you make a loop, put it around your neck like so, and you will see that my long hose sits just like this. And again, this is my primary regulator, which is the one that I will donate, which I will talk about in a second. But what do you do with all this extra hose? I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I have lots of loose hose. You don't want it loose. And my BC is a little loose as well. You want to be able to tighten the BC so that you can just barely get your fingers underneath the shoulder strap. So the way to do it is you've got, on this one, you've got the ability to pull down your shoulder straps. So I kind of do a little jump, and now it's nice and tight. Really nice and tight against my body. Okay, so I have this primary regulator. If you think about it, it's going to be like this. So I need to do something with this hose. I certainly don't want it flapping all around. Now there are lots of different opinions here. I wanted to demonstrate this on a simple recreational BC with a big weight pocket right here. Some people may say that you would want to have, using your light canister battery, it could become a very good place to put the hose under. And it would sit like this, so it's secure underneath that. Great. I find that this rubber hose goes nowhere when I'm in a wetsuit and I tuck it in my waist strap. tuck it down. I've not had a problem with it going anywhere. I put it right here, like so, and it's nice and streamlined. You can see the hose is just up against my body, and I'm wearing my primary, like so. Nice, streamlined. That's how I tuck my long hose. Also makes for easy deployment, which I will show you next. Okay, so if somebody is out of air, I told you I'm going to give them my primary. Even if they come and grab my primary and rip it out of my mouth, that's okay as well. You need to brief them on this long hose configuration and tell them, hey, my primary is available for your use. And by the way, you can see I have this hose tucked underneath my arm, Okay, so I have plenty of hose to donate to you. This is a 7-foot long hose. I can donate my primary to you if you have an out of air problem, and we will have lots of room between each other. And here's how you do it. They give the out of air signal in a very big way. We will practice that skill. And I grab the hose. I don't like to grab the regulator. I have seen people grab it and accidentally purge it in a diver's face, and that diver's already stressed, so I don't like that. I like to grab the hose out of my mouth, around my neck, put it in right by their mouth. They now are breathing, and at this point, they're still very close to me because I haven't deployed the hose yet. Once they're breathing, I'm only 2 seconds holding my breath or blowing bubbles slightly. Don't blow everything out quickly because it could affect your buoyancy. But if you do blow out too much and you find yourself sinking, you have your low pressure inflator hose. Just add a little air to compensate from the fact that we don't hold our breath and we're blowing out. I put this in my mouth. I'm breathing, they're breathing. Are you okay? Once they calm down and they're okay, I can deploy my long hose by simply pulling it. Boom, it's out, completely out. They have tons of space, and they could be on my right side, they could be on my left side, or if you're in an overhead environment and, for example, you're on a line, they could be in front of you. You could put this over their shoulder. They could be in front of you, breathing. The hose would be like this. Some people believe, again, there are some instructors that believe actually the victim, if you will, is better off behind you with the hose. And I'm all about practice the method that your instructor taught you and learn the why. But for recreational, non-overhead environment diving, this long hose is wonderful. Plenty of space for them to breathe. You're not on top of each other. And now we need to decide what to do. That is the next segment. I love the long hose. It's so easy. Boom, green line. Okay, so there's actually 4 steps to donating this primary. Step number 1 was donate it. Around your neck, donate it by holding the hose. Then get your air, then ask, are you okay? They give you back the okay, you're done with step 1. So, what is step 2? Deploy the long hose. In my case, I just pull it up, Now the long hose is deployed. Step 3 is, let me show them my pressure, right? I want them to calm down, and I want to look at my pressure, and I want them to look at my pressure. In this case, let's say I deployed it with 1,500 PSI left. I would say, you see that? I see that. Okay. Let's swim a little ways to the ascent line, or let's go up immediately. You make a decision at that point. Maybe you have to swim back to an ascent line where the boat was tied off. Maybe you have to swim back to shore. You need to think about how much air you have, and that's part of your dive planning up front. So checking the pressure is step 3, and communicating what you're going to do is step 4. I love that. Absolutely love that. Got that from Greg at Ocean Quest Divers, where we just broke it down into those steps. So the steps are donate air, get your air, ask if you're okay. They're kind of logical, the steps. Deploy the long hose. They can be on your right or your left, no problem. Check that pressure. Show them the pressure. Okay, now we're going to communicate what we want to do from there. I'm so glad I've switched to the long hose. Right, so I wrote down some notes. I want to make sure I cover all of this. The benefits of the long hose. Big benefit, sharing air effectively. Good distance, they can be on my right, they can be on my left, they can be in front of me or in back of me. It's great, less cumbersome, way more relaxed. You're not just having to be holding on to each other the whole time that you're in an out of air situation. It's very streamlined. Nothing is out. You don't have a alternate regulator all looped off to the right side, so that could easily get tangled. These things tuck in really nicely. I already told you, some people believe that if they have a battery, if they have a canister light, they could tuck it underneath the canister light. So it would be more like this. It's tucked up underneath there. Can't come up from there. Or I've never had a problem just tucking it nicely into my harness, into my waist strap, excuse me. It tucks right in. And I just adjust it based upon where this hose is. I'm just pushing it down. Love that. This is 7 feet long. This is 22 inches long. Sits perfect. You know I love that I made my own bungee now. Look at this thing. No matter what, it's not coming out. I put this in my mouth. I can easily tighten this if I want this to pull up against my mouth. Look. It's awesome. Loosen it back up, no problem. Just pull. 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 It's loose again. Right up to the knot. Makes it easy to take off. So I love that. Let's see. I already told you I prefer the rubber hoses to braided hoses. They're just a lot more secure. I've heard of some things with braided hoses where parts of it have broken off at times and even gotten into the regulator, but let's just say I like the rubber hose now. Let's see what else I want to make sure I cover with you. Wrote down some notes. The BCD hose is not a looping. It's not loose. It's nice and tight and streamlined. Okay, it's not sticking way up in the back. Keep that in mind. If you have a pressure gauge, that should be maybe for most people around 24 inches. People clip it off on their BC many times. So right under my weight pocket of this BC, I have a nice D-ring. I could clip that here, but it's not like dangling all over the place. It's just enough length where I could unclip it and look at it. Of course, I'm a big believer in using a transmitter. Works perfect on the shear water, so I love that. Let's see, I would tell you that if you don't have a canister battery light, there are devices that you could put and clip in here that are long hose holders. Kind of cool. That's what it's called, long hose retainer. Lights, I would recommend you keep your light on your left hand. So if you're using a Goodman handle, all my lights are Orca torch, I would have it on my left hand. It's no problem. It would be coming from the battery right here. And the reason for that, or if you don't have a canister light, you have a wrist held light also on the left hand. Why? Well, think about it. If it's on my right hand, let's say I had this on my right hand, just like this, my right hand, and I deploy my primary when my light is on, look what's going to be directly in their face, my light. Yes, I'm going to blind them. So, in this configuration, donating with your right hand, much better to have your light on your left hand. Just some thoughts, some logic behind all of that. I already told you, make sure you don't forget that you put your backup regulator and your necklace on first. You would not want it the other way. And let me demonstrate why. Let's say that I put my long hose on first. Now I put my necklace over that. Now I want to deploy my long hose. Oh no, it's going to get tangled. And look, it's up underneath. It'll come out from around you, but it's up underneath, so now I'd have to go and tuck it down underneath it to get it out of there. It's a mess, right? So don't do that. Instead, just remember, necklace for your short hoses first, so that your long hose is very, very easy to deploy, and it will never be tangled up under anything. That would be a nightmare. Just is looped around your neck. Nothing's in its way. When I deploy it, it's not tangled on anything. Easily deployable. Keep that in mind. Very, very important. You're going to do your normal pre-dive check. Every instructor's a little different, and I don't care so much about the exact check that you do. I just want you to check everything. So there's pre-dive checks. If you have a dry suit, be sure that the hose for the dry suit also doesn't trap this. So it would be connected right here, and the long hose would be under it. You don't want it the other way where that hose is on top of this hose, trapping your long hose. And stay in trim when you donate. Maintain eye contact. You don't need to come up. You don't need to panic. You're in trim. We'll show you that in the water. And you need to practice. Nice, slow, and calm. You would want to, at that point, I told you about the bolt snap. Don't forget about that. I'm just going through some of my checks of that bolt snap. Because if I forgot to tell you this. Let's say I need air. I'm going to take this off and I need air. I don't need this thing flopping around. It could be flopping around. It could come out. It could come around my neck. It could be all over the place. So you want to be able to clip it off, right? So you have a D-ring. You can just clip it off with your bolt snap, like so. And that way it doesn't get in the way. It's just sitting right there. It can't, it's not that it can't get in the way. It just can't float away in the water column. So that's another important reason to have a bolt snap on your primary regulator. Keep that in mind. as well. Definitely brief the long hose configuration with your buddy or with a group. They may not be familiar with it. More and more people are starting to see these benefits and use it, but some people still don't. Definitely practice in this configuration. I talked about the light. Better to have it in your left hand so that when you donate your primary, you don't blind somebody. Get a good instructor. If you're switching to the long hose configuration, get in the pool with them, practice it with them. That'll be very beneficial, especially one that uses it all the time. And I think that about covers it for my long hose configuration video. I hope you like it. I hope you see some of the benefits of using your long hose configuration. I do think overall it provides safety and comfort and streamlining. I love it. It's so streamlined. Donate it. Here's my primary right here. Here's my backup regulator right here. On loop. Plenty of room. Super streamlined. I'm converted, baby. Long hose configuration, even in a recreational BC single tank back mount. There are other things I didn't show you. It's really not the scope of this video, but I always, when I'm diving in the ocean, of course, carry a deployable reel. This is a deep 6 reel, long enough to where I could deploy from the most deepest part of my dive at a surface marker buoy, a big one, a 6-foot one. You want to be able to clip it off. I have D-rings, very easy to clip off and get. You can just sit right there, so easy, look at that, boom, no problem. Clip, unclip, be able to reach that easily. And I would always have a cutting device. In this case, I tend to wear a cutting device, the zip tie kind. We've talked about it in the past. Just, it's a shear, just for cutting line. I have a whistle, and I hope you learned something here. I learned a ton. I'll end by giving credit again. When I watched Greg from Ocean Quest Dive Center on his video, I did it a little differently. And after I watched his video, I said, I gotta make a video like this myself. Thank you, everybody.